So, many of us have heard of the Gayatri mantra. We think of it as this beautiful, ancient prayer. And it is. But what if it's something more? What if it's kind of like a spiritual technology, almost a scientific formula for changing who you are? Well, today, we're going to dig into that very idea.
And the text we're diving into today, it asks this really provocative question. It says, look, what if this mantra is so much more than just a prayer? What if it's actually a kind of hidden technology for self-development, with a powerful secret literally encoded into its very structure? And that, right there, brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer. The real power, the source argues, isn't just in the complete prayer as one single thing. No, it's in its individual building blocks, the 24 letters that make it up. Okay, so the mantra is made up of exactly 24 letters. And yeah, sure, they come together to form this amazing prayer. But the source we're looking at says that each one of these letters has its own independent life, its own unique meaning and its own power.
And here is the really fascinating claim. These aren't just sounds you make. Each letter is like a seed, or think of it like spiritual source code for a specific virtue. We're talking courage, wisdom, compassion, you name it. And each virtue comes with its own corresponding power, which is known as a siddhi.
So why does any of this matter? Well, according to the text, when you consciously work on cultivating these virtues, it has this massive effect. You start to build what it calls a godlike or divine personality. And, not in some literal cosmic way, but in the sense that you're developing this deep inner strength and character. It leads to your own well-being for sure, but it also gives you the power to genuinely help and uplift the people around you. Now, to make this all a bit less abstract, the source uses this brilliant analogy. It kind of reframes this whole spiritual idea in a way that feels, well, almost scientific. Okay, think about it like this. We all get that our physical health depends on, like, a delicate chemical balance, right? If you're low on iron, you feel weak. Simple. The Stoics argues our character or personality works the exact same way. It's based on a balance of virtues. So a deficiency in a virtue, say patience, creates a flaw in our character, just like a chemical imbalance creates an illness. And what's so cool is that this isn't just the diagnosis. It's a prescription. It's a path forward. First, you figure out which virtue you're lacking. Maybe a quality that's really holding you back. Then, you can do a very specific spiritual practice, an upasana, that targets that exact quality. This practice works just like a supplement, restoring your inner balance. And when that happens, it awakens your natural talents and sharpness. And this brings us right back to that word, siddhi. Now, this is a word that gets misunderstood a lot, right? People think it means some kind of supernatural magic trick. But in this context, it's way more practical. A siddhi is just the natural result, the state of perfection you hit when a virtue is so fully cultivated inside you that its own power just wakes up. It becomes a natural part of who you are. But, okay, you might be thinking, hold on, if it's just one mantra, how can it create so many different results for different people? Like, how does it give one person courage and another person wisdom? That seems kind of weird, right? Well, the source has this absolutely beautiful analogy to explain it. And the analogy is just wonderfully simple. Think about milk. Milk is just milk. It's one thing. But its effect is totally different depending on who's drinking it. See, the milk doesn't change, but it gives each person exactly what they need. For a wrestler, that same milk turns into physical strength. For a student, it becomes mental sharpness. For a yogi, it deepens their meditation. The source is the same, but the outcome is perfectly tailored to what that person needs. And that right there is the key takeaway. The mantra is like a universal nutrient. Your own unique system, your needs, your goals, your state of mind, it draws from that source exactly what it needs for your own personal growth and balance. The text actually gives us a couple more ways to think about this too. Like, there's only one sun, but it creates a million different reflections on the water. Or think about a pile of money. A businessman, a philanthropist, and a spendthrift will all use it in completely different ways. In every case, the source itself is neutral. It's the person receiving it who determines the final outcome. All right, so let's bring all these different ideas together now. We've got this science of balancing our virtues through our own inner work, but there's one final, really crucial piece to this whole puzzle. The source talks about two concepts that usually feel like they're on opposite teams. There's our own effort to achieve what it calls inner excellence, and then there's the idea of getting help from a higher power or divine grace. We usually think it has to be one or the other, right? Either I did this all myself, or I just got lucky.
But here's the really profound conclusion from the text. They are not separate at all. They are just two different ways of talking about the very same thing. The inner work you do, that is the very thing that attracts the outer help, the grace that you need. They are basically two sides of the exact same coin.
So, to wrap it all up, here's the big picture. Our personality is basically a science, and it's all about keeping our virtues in balance. The 24 letters of the Gayatri Mantra provide the formula, the toolkit, to do that. And crucially, the inner work you put in is what attracts the grace you need to succeed. They aren't separate forces fighting each other. They are interdependent, inseparable parts of one single reality.
And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. If each of these 24 letters really does hold the key to a specific virtue and its power, well, it's worth asking yourself, looking at your own life, right now, at your own journey, which power, which virtue would you most want to awaken?